Welcome, everyone. Just to give you a little background on myself, most of you probably have already attended one of my other webinars, but I'm going to go back through this again. I have 33 years of experience in AutoCAD across multiple industry segments. I've taught AutoCAD at community college as a certified instructor. I've had more than 15 years in CAD management, 8.5 years or more than 8 years in shipbuilding, both new builds and revitalizations. I've done 5 years of support with civil survey, landscape architecture before that. I've worked in mechanical design, electromechanical, printed circuit board, schematic design, architectural and acoustic design, and done equipment layouts in industrial spaces and plants. I do have a bachelor's in business management and a master's in organizational management. So today what we're going to be talking about is fields and sheet sets and how these things kind of interrelate together in Autodesk AutoCAD. So we're going to talk about what is a field, what types of data can be put into fields, how useful fields actually really are. And then we're going to go from there. We're going to talk about why you should use sheet sets, and we're going to go through the basics of sheet sets, and then we're going to use fields to populate sheet set title blocks. All right. Everybody should be able to hear me. I see Tiffany. I don't know why you can't hear anything, Tiffany. I am speaking, so we'll come back to that. And basically, here's what a field is. A field is a string of text in AutoCAD that contains instructions to display data that you expect to change during the design process or a life cycle of a drawing and/or drawing package. A grayed out area behind the M text in the drawing indicates that a field has been used and the data is linked to another source. And when a field is updated, the latest data is displayed. For example, the value of the file name field is the name of the file. When the file name changes, the new file name is displayed when the field is updated. It's actually pretty clever, and there's a lot of things you can do with fields that people don't realize. So fields can be inserted in any kind of text except tolerances, including text in table cells, attributes, and attribute definitions. Some sheet set fields can be inserted as placeholders. For example, you can insert the sheet number and title as a placeholder. Later, when the layout is added to a sheet set, the placeholder field displays the correct sheet number and title. And we're actually going to go through that exercise where we have a title block. I have some blocks in there. I'll show you how we define those blocks with fields. And then as we insert the title block, you're going to see these things update automatically. And block placeholder fields can be used in block attribute definitions while you're working in a block editor. A field for which no value is available displays hyphens. For example, the author field, which is set in the drawing properties, may be blank. An invalid field will always display pound signs. For example, current sheet name field, which only is valid only in paper space, displays pound signs if it's placed in model space. So those are the two things to know. So if you have hyphens in a field, that means that you don't have a field data that you need to connect to, or you don't have the data populated in the background of your drawing. And if you have an invalid field, which displays all pounds, for example, that means that the current sheet name, or in this particular case, that means that it's an invalid set of information. So what types of data can be put into a field? This is where we get into all the kinds of craziness that we can actually do with a field. So you can put date and time, any document information from the drawing you can use. You can put fields, hyperlink data, object data, formulas, Lisp and system variables, and diesel expressions, plot data, and sheet set data. So this is a large amount of information that you can use in fields to do something very clever. So the usefulness of fields: plot stamp information, who last saved the file, and other data. How many times have you run across something where you've got the PDF of a file or something like that, and you have no idea where that file came from? You could put a field in there that displays the full file path, and it will always print down there just like the plot stamp, because that's what a plot stamp actually is. It's a specialized set of fields. And then I'm going to give you a demonstration right now of some basic field abilities. Okay. So when we come back to AutoCAD right here, you're going to see that I have some basic fields in here. So I have these fields right here are all created. I use the list program, and then I have a table here, and you'll see that the drawing name is field example. So if I do save as, right, and I save this as field example new and save it, you will see that my drawing name immediately updated to field example new. And then if I regen all And you'll see that this is showing that it updated on the 13th of May, 2019. In some cases, we do need to do field up, or what is it? Update field, right? Update field. And we'll click on this field right here, and you will see now that my date updated now is updated to the 13th of June. There are some other things that are very clever with fields. For example, if we take this polyline right here and we adjust this over to here, and then I regen, normally what happens is that you'll see these values update. So this one right here was 712 square meters, and if I modify it over here and regen all, you'll see now it's 435. Okay, and this, all I'm doing in these fields, for example, if I just start a plain field command, right, brings up my XREF box, or sorry, brings up my dialog box just like this. It says, what are our field categories? So in this case, I'm just looking at an object, right? And I can look at a block placeholder. This is where I can do formulas. I can do an average, a sum, a count, and cell. And these come back over to this table here, a named object. Or I can just look at a simple object. I can come here, I can click the object type. So if I want to know what the perimeter is, I've got the area of the polyline here. I can tell you whether or not it's closed. I can tell you the color, elevation, global width, all of these things that you'd find in your properties box, but you can actually use a field to display these things much faster. So for example, in this area field, you'll see that this is the area in millimeters. Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want it in current units. Maybe I want it in architectural units, so it'll display in square feet. If I go back to decimal, I can actually modify the current precision down to here, and I can add additional formats. So if I want to do a conversion factor here, right, so 0.000001 to make it square millimeter, or to turn square millimeters into square meters, and then I put a space M2, and now when you look at it, you'll see that this is 8872.3 square meters. Done. Place the field, and now you'll see that my field is here, and it is linked to this object. So if I happen to change this object in any way and regen, you'll see it becomes 85.2 or 8520.1. So there's a lot of clever things you can do with fields. So for example, in this particular table here, all I have in these tables are field cells. So these field cells here are actually linked back. So there's a little Lisp routine that I wrote that goes through, and it looks at all my hatch patterns, and it adds up all the hatch patterns on the same layers, and it goes ahead and generates this kind of table. And then what I'm doing here is I'm getting this as a Lisp value. So if I actually take a look at this value right here, what I'm looking for here is a Lisp variable. And again, I wrote this in Lisp, so I'm looking for a Lisp variable that I create. Once I'm in that Lisp variable, what I'm doing in here, whoops, right, run my command. Now I've got my Lisp variables populated, and what you'll see in here is this is actually a sum, right, equals B4, which is this field right here, divided by this cell right here, acts and behaves just like Excel. So these are the kind of things that you can actually get fields to do for you. Right, and this is just the most basic set of example of what you can do with fields. And there's all kinds of other things that you can do, and we're going to get into that a little more. So now that you understand the basics of fields, now we're going to move on to the next steps, which is we're going to talk about sheet sets. So now that you have some fields, now we can use those fields to really help your sheet sets along the way. So what a sheet set is, it's an organized and named collection of sheets from several drawing files. You can manage, transmit, publish, and archive sheet sets as a unit. When a sheet is selected from a layout from a drawing file, you can import a layout from any drawing into a sheet as a numbered sheet. And before the sheet set manager, we largely managed project files by naming our sheet files as something unique and then including the sheet number in the file name so they could be organized. And ultra frequently, we've all been down this road. You add an additional sheet, and now you have between sheet 5 and sheet 6, now you have sheet 5A, sheet 5B, so on and so forth. And all of those things really start compounding the issue and the problems of managing large file sets. The other thing too is if you are wanting to print an entire project, now what you had to do, before you use the sheet set manager, what you have to do is you have to open up each drawing. You have to go ahead and plot each layout sheet to PDF, to your plotter, whatever, and then close the drawing, open up the next drawing, because most of us do not work in a single drawing. We have multiple drawings. And so that's why you really want to use a sheet set for that. And then another issue that frequently cropped up is individual sheet names not matching the index. How many of you have ever run across the fact that what you've named your sheet in the title block does not match what's in the index, and then you take it to submittal, county, city, jurisdiction, whatever, rejects it because the names don't match, and then you have to come back and fix it, and then you may have to fix it in more than one place. And so at a minimum, the sheet set manager solved those two things for us and continues to do so today, but that's just touching the surface of the capabilities of the sheet set manager. One of the sheet set manager's learning hurdles was understanding how we could use it, and we found that part of what makes it so attractive is that you can use it in phases. So what we're going to talk about are the 3 phases of sheet sets. So level 1, right, this is the sheet set use, is simply using the sheet set manager to organize your sheets so they'll be presented to the team of users in a logical manner. Sheet 1 to sheet XX, whatever your last sheet is. At this point, you at least have an organizational tool which takes no effort to set up and has no effect on the files at all. Since you already have the sheet sitting there in order, you may as well use Sheet Set Manager for printing. You can print one sheet, you can print the entire set, anything in between with just a couple of clicks of the mouse. And now your productivity has already been enhanced without really doing much at all. All we've done is we add the sheets to the sheet set, and now you have the ability to print multiple drawings at one time with a couple of button clicks. When you get into level 2, this is what the next phase is now if you could control the text in the drawings, such as the sheet title, the sheet number, project name, just by making those changes in one place and having them pushed out to the drawing files. Now we're getting into the properties of properties and fields to automate and standardize annotation throughout the sheet set. This is why fields is the precursor before we start talking about sheet sets, is you have to know what fields can do. And so suppose the title of sheet 9 is details. You might find this on the title of the cover sheet, on sheet 9, and even other sheets as a reference. Now what happens when the title changes to shell and housing details? Normally you'd have to edit sheet 9, the cover sheet, and any other places where this title is in use. With the Sheet Set Manager, you can make that edit in one place, and the changes are automatically updated across the entire set with no effort on your part. The same thing applies to other properties such as sheet number. If you insert a new sheet between 9 and 10, you don't have to name it 9A. You just name it to 10, renumber all the following sheets to 11, 12, 13, 14, etc. All from inside the Sheet Set Manager. No need to open and save each drawing. The next time you go to print those, all of those fields get updated from that title block, and they will all have the correct numbers. Now we're going to talk about the last level. This is level 3. At this point, you have organized sheets. You can print them easily. You can control information on multiple sheets from inside the Sheet Set Manager. What else could you do? Well, we've touched on sheet references earlier. Do you have items on one sheet that point to a different item on a different sheet? Maybe a block, maybe a text that tells user see detail 1 on sheet 9. If you do, then you know that those detail references and sheet references are going to change. More often than not, these are going to change, and probably more than once. And if we told you that we can manage this with the Sheet Set Manager, can keep track of these references too. When a detail is renumbered or a sheet is inserted, deleted, moved, the Sheet Set Manager can actually help you make these changes with all those references with very little effort. So now the basics. So the easiest way to get started is, first step is implementing sheet set functionality is to create a sheet set. You can create a sheet set using the example sheet set or by importing existing layouts, drawing layouts as sheets. Although AutoCAD includes several example sheet sets, it's unlikely any of these are going to meet your specific needs. A simpler method is just to import the drawings you're going to need from your existing projects. After you configure your first sheet set to meet your needs, you can use it as an example to create future sheet sets. In order for you to create a new sheet set that's based on existing drawings, those drawings must use layout tabs. So you have to use paper space, and those paper space tabs have to have geometry in it. And don't worry about messing up your drawings by creating a sheet set. A sheet set file is simply a file with the DST extension which has pointers to your drawing files. The sheet set wizard leads you through the entire process of creating a sheet set so that it references your specified drawing files, and it's actually quite easy. So what we're going to do is you begin the sheet set wizard, right? From the application menu, you choose new sheet set. In the create sheet set wizard, select your existing drawings. You can browse out to a directory. Once you select that directory, it will populate with all the drawings in there that have title blocks, or not title blocks, that have layout tabs that have geometry in them. And you specify the name and location of where you want to save the sheet set file. The sheet set file is an XML type based file, and it has a DST extension. You enter the name of the sheet set, you provide a description if you want, it's optional, and you specify the location to save it. Then you select your appropriate layouts, and you'll be able to see all the drawings. And what I'll do is I'll actually go through the example and walk you through this so that you can actually see how we do this. And then you would want, for example, you wouldn't want to select the drawings of model geometry that are used in XREFs. You only want the pages that you want to include in here. And then choose the import options. So when you choose the import options, do you want to create subsets based on folder structure? Do you want to ignore the top level folder? Do you want to prefix sheet titles with file names? These are some of the choices you have. And again, if you make a mistake, you can erase the sheet set, you can start over again, or you can go ahead and use the sheet set manager to rename this information, because you can rename and renumber from inside the sheet set manager, and you can always reorganize this stuff later. So don't worry too much about messing up, and don't worry about if you didn't pick the right thing the first time. We can fix that later. And then once you get through here, you finalize the sheet set, and after exiting the create sheet set wizard, your sheet set data file automatically opens up in the sheet list tab, and the sheet set manager will automatically appear on your screen, and you will have all of this information ready to go. You can drag and drop sheets to reorganize them, and you can double click on any sheet name to open the associated drawing and that specific tab in your drawing. So now we're going to come back here, and we're just going to simply go through the process. And again, we can find it from here. We go up to there. We come down to new, and we're going to create a new sheet set. This launches that sheet set wizard. So we're going to create this from some existing drawings because I already have some. And I'll go next, and we are going to call this, I'll call this the webinar sheet set. Right, and I'm going to put a description in here just because I like it. And I'm going to go ahead and save this right here to the D webinar. This is where my drawings are. Right, and here's the sheet set properties, so you'll see that these are just some of the information. If I wanted to, I can add my project number, my project name, my project phase, my project milestone here. Or I'll show you where in the sheet set manager we can find this information and repopulate. And then you've got the ability to edit some custom properties, and we're going to use that a little later when we talk about title blocks and things like that. So we go next, and it says choose the layout. So I'm going to go to browse, and I'm going to browse to my webinar directory, and you'll see these are the drawings that I have in the webinar directory. And again, I don't need the title block included in the sheet set because we're going to be using this D-size layout later to populate these, but what we want is we want all 6 of these layouts from the A1 and the B1 drawing to be included. I'll click next. It's just giving me a confirmation of what we're setting up here, and I'm going to click finish. And what you get right here is that sheet set. This is that webinar sheet set, and you'll see that I have A1, right? And if I expand this out, nope, I have that locked. So here's the A1, basically the first tab. And if I, again, double click on one of these, it's going to open up that tab to the right space. It's opening up that B1 drawing in the background, and it automatically takes me to that layout space, which is the B1 plan. It's fairly straightforward, fairly simple. Right? So that's using the sheet set wizard. And we're going to come back to this in just a minute. Okay, so now we've created our first sheet set. So now we want to use the power of those fields, right? These are the fun things that we want to use. So now we're at the point where we fully want to implement sheet sets for maximum productivity. Now we need to create and assign various sheet set properties. And you're going to find these sheet set properties by right mouse clicking on the sheet set title in the sheet list tab of the sheet set manager and selecting properties. You'll also find a properties option in the right-click menu for subsets and sheets. And depending on which item you right-click, selecting properties will display the different dialog boxes. So here is sheet set properties, here is individual sheet properties, and here's a sheet subset properties box. So depending on what you select, you're going to get different things. And the sheet set manager enables you to define some custom properties to use as fields in your drawings. And you can define these custom properties, and these are going to apply to the entire sheet set or may vary from sheet to sheet. For example, you might create a custom property for the project name and project number, and when you enter values for those properties, you want them to apply to every sheet in the sheet set. Additionally, you might create some custom properties indicating who created or reviewed a particular sheet. For those properties, you're going to want the values to vary by sheet by sheet. And so in the custom properties dialog box, we click the add button. In the add custom property box, we enter the name, the default value, owner, things like that. And the following image shows some typical custom properties you may wish to create. Notice that the information which applies to the entire sheet set, and we'll say sheet sets here, or you may have it only apply to individual sheets right here. And after you create your custom sheet set properties, you can insert them as fields into your drawings. You can use them anywhere that you can insert a field, but the most obvious reason for these is your title block. Right? So what we get from here is we're going to access the attribute definitions for each block attribute. Right? We've all done this before. This is old school CAD where we have a block that we insert, we define an attribute. When we insert that block, we get the attribute dialog box that pops up, and we need to fill in that information. You can actually put a field here instead. Link that field back to the sheet set manager information, and you no longer have to type that information in. Right? So you right mouse click here where it says the default when you're creating or editing this attribute definition, and you insert a field. Okay, and then in the field dialog box, you select the appropriate category and field name. And again, I'll show you all of this so you can get a good idea of how this all works. Most of the fields you use for your title block data are going to be in the sheet set field category, and the field names begins with current sheet set. Using the current sheet set fields in your title block enabled AutoCAD to read the values that apply to any sheet in which the title block is inserted. So for example, you probably wanted attributes that display the current sheet number and the current sheet title. If you create some custom sheet set properties, you can access them doing the same things. Of these two custom options, depending on which one you pick, the custom property you create is either owned by the sheet set or by the sheet, and a drop-down enables you to see all those custom properties. And then seeing the title block attributes. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the example of the title block attributes, and then we're going to see the actual process of populating the title block from those sheet set properties in custom fields. So we're going to come back here. Here's my generic title block, right? And you'll see that this is just my D-size piece of paper. And when I double click on this project name, right, it's project name, and my default right here, again, this is inserted as a field. And this is current sheet set project name, right? And where this project name is coming from, right here in my sheet set. And I go to my properties. Here's that project name right here. So there are some other fields that I've created in here, right? Because I've pre-populated this just in the efforts of making the time go a little faster. So what I've got here is I have my project name, my project address 1, project address 2, project address 3, and create date. So these are the fields that I actually have in here that are outside of what we normally have. So what we do now is we go into our sheets, our webinar sheet set here, and we're going to go down to properties, and now we're going to create some edit custom properties. So we simply add, right? And we are going to add project name here, right? And this will apply to the whole sheet set, and I'll add another one, right? Project address 1, okay, add, project address 2, okay, add, project address 3, okay, and then I just want the create date. Okay, so now I have these additional values in here in this sheet set. And I'm just going to say OK here. Now this is the fun thing, is if I wanted to create a new attribute, right? Define the attribute here, and I've got the tag, the prompt, the default, right? And if I'm doing it here, I can insert a field here, or I can also click here, and I can create additional fields. And when I create these additional fields, these are things now that I need to add as custom properties. So we have all these things in here. So now let's see the power of this. So when we come back to here to this college building A1, right? And I'm down here in the A1 plan. And now what we're going to do is we're going to populate some of these values. So we're going to go into our properties, right? And our project number is going to be 06/13/2019-1, right? Our project name is going to be webinar project, right? Phase, milestone. Since I haven't populated those, I'm not going to include those here because I don't need to actually update them. But if I needed to, I can, if I had references in my title block for those, then I would populate that information as well. So our create date is 06/13/19. Our project address, the famous 1234 Main Street, right? And this is what? Anytown, USA, 12345, right? And if I wanted to, so for example, I'll go down here, and maybe I want the client name here under, whoops, right, 1234 Main Street, and this will be right, the IMAGINiT project right here. And then again, I will call this the same webinar project. Right, so all I've done to this point is I've gone into my properties here. I've edited some custom values to create this. Now I have these here. So this is where the power comes in. When I go to insert my block, that title block right here, right, and I am just going to double click. You'll see that it comes up and gives me my edit attributes, but one of the things I want you to notice is that these are already populated with all of the information out of the fields. So now you'll see that we have our webinar project, it's the IMAGINiT project, and all of these things were pre-populated for me, right? And so now here's the cool part, is I can Control C, I can go to this one, right? Control V, or actually I can come up to paste to original coordinates. Let's just go ahead and Control Shift C on this. We'll go 0,0, right? And when I come here and I paste this to 0,0, and you'll notice that this updated with sheet number 2. I'll come to my right page and I'll go Control V and go 0,0, and you'll see that this is sheet number 3. Right? And I can continue doing this. So if I open up that B1 drawing here, and I can continue on because this B1 drawing is associated here. So I go to my B1 plan, Control V, 0,0, and you'll see this updates with 4, etc. Right? Already I am taking advantage of the fact that I did not have to retype this out every time. And if I change something, so for example, we can come in here and we go, well, maybe it's not the IMAGINiT project. We'll just call this IMAGINiT webinar, and we'll just call this example project, right? So when I go OK, that's right. That's where I've changed it, right? So our project name is example project, and I change this here. Now you're going to see these things when I regen. Now it's the example project, IMAGINiT webinar. And then when I come back here, all I have to do is regen. And you'll see that it updates. Right? So from here, you can actually come in here. And now I can renumber these. So for example, if I want to rename and renumber these sheets, so for example, this is sheet number 1. Here's the layout name, etc. If I want to renumber this, I can go, we're going to name this, maybe this is 100 series. And then we go next, and it'll go to the next one in the list, and we'll go 101, next, 102, next, and then since this is B1, we'll go 200, next, 201, next, and 202, and hit OK. And then when I regen, you'll see all of my sheets just updated. 101, 100. See, this is the cool power of sheet sets and fields. And together they go hand in hand to allow us to do these kinds of manipulation and allow us to really save time, be more efficient. And again, from here, I can right mouse click, I can say publish, and I can publish this entire thing to the plotter and publish to the PDF, and it will actually go through and send each one of these sheets in order to that information, and it should be done. So that easy, right? I just gave you the scratching of the surface of what we can do with this. Right? So we populated the title block from the sheet set property and some custom fields. So really, is there any questions? And honestly, this is a great reference for more detailed walkthrough. This link right here is a great place to actually dig in because it has a lot more information than what I showed you today. Some of what I took came directly from this site with some small modifications, but this is a great place to go to actually walk through the fuller process. I just scratched the surface today, but you can see that there's a lot of power in sheet sets and what you can actually do with them and how fast this can actually make your design process and all of the things that you do. And I mean, there's additional components to this. Like we can come back real quick here. Like if we need an index sheet, right, we can actually create a new sheet here, right? And we will call this the 000, and this is going to be our index, right? And it's going to want to know what sheet template to use, right? So if I do this, right, now we've got the index, right? And I can click and drag my index up to the top, right? That's that reorder. Now I can open this index, right? This is just going to have our basic index information right here. Again, different title block. I would want to use the correct template, but then I can come up here to this, here, and it is, where is that? Insert sheet list table. Right here, and I can select my table information. And again, when I put this in here, this is that index. This index is tied to these sheets. So if I change any of the names here, this automatically updates. That's how we add that sheet list index. And this index will continue to grow or lessen as we change things. So for example, if I just want to remove this sheet right here, are you sure you want to? Yes. Right, and then when I regen, this should have, because this should be a linked field. So let me go to update fields. Oh, I maybe need to save this. Normally when you remove a sheet from here and you save and close, this should have dropped this last cell from here. And I'm not sure why it's not doing it, because I think it's just, this is just kind of an ad hoc, but I wanted to show you what you can do with this. Okay. So coming back here, now we can get into the Q&A section. All right, let me get back to my, where did I? There we go. All right. So let's start now with the Q&A. So had some issues with VPN and sheet sets, major delays and lags, resorted to closing sheet sets to do work until back on local land. The more drawings and more sheets, the worse it is. Is there a solution for this? Perhaps Vault? No, because you're working over a VPN, what you're doing when you have the sheet sets open, the sheet set manager open, and you have not closed out of it, what you're doing is you're actually keeping a tab on every single one of your drawings that's in that sheet set. So when you're on a VPN, you basically have a very small pipe that you're communicating to. So really the best way to do that is, is closing the sheet set to do your work until you're back on your local land. That is really the only way to solve that, or you have to, working locally on the land, because it is looking at every single one of those layouts and every single one of those sheets as you are having that sheet set open. All right, and is there a best practice for preserving sheet fields when a drawing from a sheet set is added or merged to a different sheet set in the future? My experience is that the sheet fields disappear and I have to re-enter the data with the import layout. That really comes down to exactly the process you're following. Normally, if you insert another sheet into the sheet set, it should maintain that unless you have title blocks or unless you have field information that is not currently defined. Okay, and that may be where you're coming from, is that if you're inserting information or you're inserting additional sheets that have a different set of fields, it may be resetting some of that. That would be something I'd want to look at a little more, and that's from Mark. And let's see, somebody has a team meeting. Can I get the info later? Yes, this is going to be available. I believe we're going to put this up on YouTube as well, and I'll let Lori talk about that, but we'll definitely get this information up. What if you XREF the title block instead of placing each title block as a block insertion? If your XREF has, well, we can actually try that, but I believe if your XREF, right, so let's come back to here because I did not populate this sheet, right? And we are going to come here, we are going to, right, create an XREF. I already have this open. Let me go ahead and close out of this without saving. Let me go ahead and open B1 back up. And I believe if you're using XREFs, I believe you have to use the remote text, the RL. Because see, this actually shows none of our fields in here. So you can't do it with an XREF. Let's see, can I place a letter that prefixes the number on a sheet set? Yes. Right, so if you want this right here, right, we can go to our rename and renumber. If you want this to be, A-100, you can change that to A-100. Okay. Now it's A-100. When we come back here and we regen, you'll see it's A-100. So by default, it just starts with the simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you can actually do that. Can sheet set be used if your drawings are not using layouts? No, not at all. The only time sheet sets can be used is only with layout tabs because it was designed specifically for that. Will the plot option publish batch plot to a single PDF file? Yes, depending on how you have it set up. So if I want to, that's not what I want to do. I want to publish to a PDF right here. And if I click on it, it's going to say, where do you want to save this? And those options are actually set here when I go include for publish, yes. And I want to set sheet set PDF publish options. You'll see that I can go ahead and select where it's going. I can prompt for the name, and I can select a multi-sheet file or a single sheet file. If I uncheck this, it will create single sheet PDFs for each one of the layouts. If this is checked, it will create one PDF with all of those sheets in it. Yes, this presentation will be available later. Let's see. Do you save the sheet set DST inside the job folder so you can copy it to your hard drive and work remote? I don't recommend doing that because what's going to happen is that DST is actually modifies your drawings slightly to include some XML information. So even if you copy that DST local to your machine, it's still going to be referencing out to wherever those drawings were filed. Let's see, that doesn't allow for collaboration shared views. I've been using a single file for my 3D model and all layouts. I understand that this will not allow multiple drafters to work on the project. Is there any other disadvantages? Am I setting myself a trap? Now, it does not really allow for collaboration. Well, it kind of does. The reason why I have padlocks here is I have these drawings open. If I close here, okay, so if I close this B1 right here, what should normally happen in the sheet set once it completes is that these padlocks should disappear off of here, which means that if I'm working in this drawing, and if you hover over here, I can see what drawing this is, the college building A1. I could be working in this one. Somebody else could be working in the B1 drawing, which is a different drawing. And you can still do your collaboration with, you know, one individual in one drawing, one individual in the other, but your sheet set has multiple layouts from multiple drawings in it. You can still do that. You just have to be cognizant of the fact that if you do have something open, that's going to be the problem. All right, and yes, this is right. Oh, where is it? Let's see. Sorry, I have my right mouse click functionality turned off. I know what we need to do here. Right, you're talking about this. Right mouse click, and then I believe it is update. There we go. Thank you. I forgot about that. So you have to right mouse click update sheet set table, and this will remove that extra row. Thank you very much for that. Let's see. With sheet sets, do you need to keep the okay? What happens if the DST file gets moved or deleted? If the DST file gets moved, that's usually not an issue. You just have to go open it again. If the DST file gets deleted, what's going to happen is that the next time you open up that drawing, you will actually get a message dialog box that says that the DST file associated, the sheet set associated with this drawing cannot be found. And do you want to refine that DST if you've moved the DST, or do you want to remove that association if you've deleted it? The other thing that I do want to make sure that you guys all understand, and I don't believe I covered that in the slide, but if I did, I just accidentally missed over it, is that you can only assign a layout tab to an individual sheet set. So you cannot use the same drawing in multiple sheet sets. You can only do one drawing per sheet set. So as soon as you run into a situation where you're trying to add a second drawing, or let's say you've created a new sheet set and you're trying to add another drawing to that sheet set that you have in a previous one, it won't let you do that. Let's see, will all of this work in AutoCAD LT? Yes, it will. AutoCAD LT supports all the same functionality as regards to fields and sheet sets. The only difference is you will not have options in LT in order to find Lisp expressions and Lisp information. Is there a way to isolate the field list under fields to show only the few you want to use more often? There is not. There is not a way to filter that. You are going to get that same dialog box here every time. Now, there is some things you can do. You can, this is the all. This is going to show you absolutely everything. If you just want date and time, you can sort by categories here, but this is the best that you can do in order to reduce the amount of information. And the big thing is you have one down here that's just called sheet set, and this has all of the sheet set specific information. Let's see. Is there a way to create a field that counts sheets for customers who require a sheet countdown, such as sheet 1 of 23, 2 of 23? Actually, that's a very good question, right? So you can go field, whoop, right? And we are going to do a formula, and we're just going to do a simple count, right? It's like the first corner of the table range, second corner of the table range. You're going to see, and count should have given me more than 0. I think this is, normally that's what I would use for this is field, and then I can usually do a formula and a count. And normally it'll give me numbers here, count here, because it's looking for an evaluation. Yeah, why won't it give me this additional information? Normally you can use a count, and it may be because I've got some other information in here that's linked where I may not be able to do it the correct way, but count usually will give you that, where it'll give you, oh, you're talking about populating that sheet number. So what you can do is you put sheet number here, and then in that field box, right, you actually have sheet set, and there should be a, right, current sheet set, custom, description, number. I know it's in here, and it may just be a custom property where you have to do total number of sheets, but I know that that can be done, and it's done through one of these. Let's see, on a sheet that has several views, it is very tedious to drag in 20 views to create dynamic callout blocks. Would you advise dragging in pre-save views from an XREF, or to XREF the drawings in model space and then create the views in model space? Dragged in 20 views to create dynamic callouts. I would honestly probably advise preset views from an XREF, or you could XREF the drawings in model space, but you're still going to come in and have to create those 20 views in layout space. Let's see, is there a way to get a number of sheets per drawing? For example, drawing has 4 and drawing 2 has 6. Is it possible to have fields 1 through 4 and 1 through 6 respectively, as well as auto-populating the total sheets per drawing? I know there's a way to populate the total sheets per drawing, but what you would do in this particular or what I would recommend is creating called subsets, and then you break out those subsets into, right, so we create a new subset here. This subset would create drawing 1. You'd create a second subset that would have drawing 2 in it, and then those information right there, you can number those individually that way. Yep, and the sheet set does not update automatically. Yep, I know that's a flaw. I found that one out and I forgot. Do sheet set fields work well for data in the model space of a drawing as well, references to other drawing numbers in the sheet set? Why not? It's just a field. It's just looking back at information. So if I come into my model space, right, I can certainly put in a field, right, and I can come back to my sheet set and I can say, right, let's say I want current sheet set. Let's see, she did description. Maybe I need to save this. All right. Oh, maybe not. Let's see, do sheet set fields work well in the data for model space drawing as well? No, the sheet set fields do not work in model space. That's a good question. I did not even think about that. If the sheet number is changed, will the sheets renumber the subsequent sheets? No, you have to go through that individually. So again, when I come in here and I want to rename and renumber, I'll do the first one and then you click next and you have to go through and renumber them all individually. Let's see. I currently have dates in my title block, but regen all does not update. Is there a trick to having to avoid click update field on each layout? That's going to depend on if your dates in your title block are either fields or if you have them as attributes with a field. So if all my drawings are in a single large job folder, the DST can work local. Yes. I currently have the and does not update. Model space is not an item listed in the SSM, so you cannot reference data in the model. Yep, that is correct. All right. Any other questions? Let's see. When you renumber it, can you post the correct steps to create the counting field, 1 of 20, 2 of 20, etc.? This is a common question for DOB, needs to go on every sheet. Yes, I may append. I know there's a way to do it, and I don't remember off the top of my head. And since we're in the Q&A, I don't believe we are recording at this point, so that will not be part of the recording. I know there's a way to get a total number of sheets, and I can't remember where that particular item is. Let's see, it's not under here. Add. It's not a custom property because it's going to be, right, it is definitely in here somewhere. So where is it?
I'm going to resume.
All right, hang on just a second. I know there's a way to do this. Field for total number of sheet sets. All right, because this is a very common one where people want to know what the sheet set is for the total number of sheets in a sheet set. Let's see. Yeah, you create a custom property at the sheet set level. Add a custom property called total sheets. Give this value that reflects the total number of sheets in your drawing. Yeah, so you'll have to change. Yep, that's how we have to do it, unfortunately, is we have to know how many sheets are in there, and then we can actually go from there. Yep, it's not completely automatic. So what you would have to do, that's what I was sneaky suspicion, is you have to go to custom property, right? We add and say, right, total sheets with a value, right? And then we can put in, since we've got 6 total sheets here, we put that in, and now it's a field where we add that custom total number of sheets. Okay, right? So that is how you have to do this. It's not yet a fully automatic process, but this is definitely something I have run across in the past, and you do have to create a manual one right now. Yep, that's how we do that. You have to create a custom field. You have to know how many sheets are in your sheet set, right? And you can usually look, I think you can look in here. Yep, you add a custom property with the total number of sheets, and then you can add that into your information. That's how we have to do it. This is something we've been asking for a while. Let's see. It's 2018, 2019. Yep, that is still the process. They have not come up with an automatic process yet. That is, I believe, still on the drawing board list. But count your number of sheets here. You create a new field for that, right? Properties, total sheets. That gives you your total sheets, and you can update that as necessary. And then that gives you sheet A101, and you can put sheet 1 of 6, 1 and 2 of 6, etc. Well, yep, you can do 1 of 6, 2 of 6, etc. Okay. Right, so this is where we have to come in and modify this field. Right, so we've got this down in here, and we can add additional this. So we can come in here, and right, we want current sheet number down here. Cancel. Come back in here, and then we come in here. And there is a way to do this where you have to actually modify this information in here. All right, so we come in here. This is just an mtext field, remember that. So it'll be sheet field, right? And we just want sheet number A of 6, right? So now I have multiple fields in this line. And so if this were, right, this is A100, if I come back here and I rename and renumber this and make this just sheet 1, okay? Now it becomes sheet 1 of 6. So what I did here is that this you would not be able to do in a block attribute. Actually, you might be able to do that because you can insert multiple fields, but normally I would do this as just a piece of M text where you put in your sheet blank, you put your number in, sheet space, sheet number, space, of, space, and then your total sheet value. And that would be your sheet 1 of 6. And then if I copy this by chance, right, and we go to here, and we paste this into here, you'll see that it still shows sheet 1 of 6. Now it's sheet 101 because this is sheet 101. If I rename and renumber this to 2, right, and regen, now it becomes sheet 2 of 6, etc. That's how you would do that sheet 2 of 6, 3 of 6, 4 of 6, 5 of 6, etc. But you lost sheet A102. That is correct, but what I could do here is I could do a couple of things here. So I can go to the properties here, and I can actually create some individual information. So this is this sheet information. If I come back here, I can go to my properties, and I can add an additional custom field where I could be looking at a different, so I've got total sheets, and maybe I just add one here called, sheet number EX, right? So, and this will be not as a sheet set. Oh, delete. I need to add this, and I would need to add this as a sheet field. Sheet number X. Okay. And this will be by sheets. Okay. So what I've got here is I can change this now. If I go into the properties of this sheet, you'll see that that sheet number X, I can go 1 here. Right, but I can leave this as that rename and renumber. I can take this back to, A101, okay? And then in my fields, right, this instead of being, right, so if we double click here, instead of being that, it will be current sheet custom. No, it's current sheet custom, sheet number X, okay? So now I maintain my drawing number here, and then I have sheet 1 of 6 here. So that's how you do that. You do that as an individual sheet, custom field, right? Where it says total number of sheets here, and then when I've got my edit custom properties, I have this specific field right here, sheet number X, which will have a value, and this owner is sheet, not the sheet set. That's how you would get this information in there. So it's not fully automated, but it does give you the ability to automate some of this. All right. Well, I think we have hit our time limit.
Yep, I'm at 12 o'clock. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and stop the recording. There we go. All right, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We still have almost all of the calls still on the line from your Q&A, Ryan, so thank you so much. Ryan always sends me his PDF of today's presentation, so I will have that, and I'll be able to email everybody that attended today. If you need it before I send it out to you in a couple of days, just send me an email at Elliott, L-E-L-L-I-O-T-T, @rand.com, and I can get it to you sooner than later. And we are now starting to post our webcast on YouTube. I don't know why we didn't do that earlier. So I will have this all cleaned up, and I'll post it. If not by end of today, then it'll be there for you on Friday morning. And again, if there's anybody that has any questions, feel free to email myself. If there's anything that I can pass on to Ryan, I will. If there's anything that Ryan's not sure of, we've got a ton of resources internally that will be able to help you. And so with that, we have another call scheduled for September. I believe it's September the 12th, and I have that link live on our website right now. But again, everybody that has joined us today will get the invite for our September call. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a healthy, safe, and adventurous summer, and we'll see you all again in September. Thanks, Ryan, as always. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.